Booking flights within the US can feel like a task. Everyone wants the best deal, but between choosing an airline, actually finding a decent fare, and then actually getting through checkout without being charged like $80 for something ridiculous, the whole process can feel chaotic. And US domestic flights are uniquely messy. Different rules than international, tons of add-ons, and some strange quirks most people don't know how to navigate. But after taking hundreds of domestic flights around the US over the years myself, I figured out what actually matters. From finding a great deal to booking a great deal to avoiding all the traps. So in this video, we're going over the hacks I use every single time I take a domestic flight in the US. And it all starts with how you search for flights. Some people will tell me they're loyal to an airline, so they just head straight to a website like delta.com and book whatever's there. Others might say they always use a website like Expedia, usually because it's one of the first travel websites they learned existed and they recognize the brand. But when it comes to flight prices, loyalty is the #1 way to overpay. What you want is visibility, not loyalty. And when it comes to flight deal visibility, Google Flights is really hard to beat these days. It's quietly become the best go-to tool for searching for US flights, period. Airlines' own websites will only show you their flights. That usually means you don't even look at most of the flights available. But it also beats other search sites like Expedia, Kayak, or Skyscanner. Google Flights is generally faster if for no other reason than the layout is just way cleaner than any other flight search website. Plus the chances of finding phantom or ghost fares are a lot lower than a website like Kayak in my experience. I mean, with Google Flights, you can instantly compare almost every airline in the world and definitely every airline in the US, and their calendar function is just awesome. It makes it quick and easy to determine which days are the cheapest to fly in a matter of seconds. And if you don't quite find a deal you like while searching the first time, you can set a price alert and get a completely free email notification when prices do drop on the route you're looking at. Just keep in mind we're talking about searching on Google Flights and not booking. We'll get to booking later in the video. So when booking flights, an important consideration is always, are you going to book a few one-way flights or a round-trip ticket? Domestic US flights can be kind of weird about this. Internationally, round-trip will very often be the cheaper option. But when flying within the US, sometimes 2 one-way tickets are cheaper. But still, sometimes round-trip flights will be the better deal. Lately, I've noticed some routes sneakily pricing round-trip lower than 2 one-ways. So the rule here is that you've got to check both every single time. There's no real pattern. The way airlines price their tickets is pretty much always changing, so you've just got to check. Okay. The controversial one. This one might feel a little bit more hacky, and it's known as hidden city ticketing or skip lagging. Say you want to fly from Denver to Dallas, but for some reason Denver to New York via Dallas is cheaper. So you just book the New York flight and you get off in Dallas. And the US is especially good for hidden city deals because the airlines here love selling connecting flights cheaper than non-stops. But when it comes to booking a hidden city ticket, you've got to know the downsides. You simply can't check a bag. It will end up at your final destination. It's really better not to attach your frequent flyer number either. A lot of people have been banned from US airlines for booking tickets like this. You also can't do it on a round-trip ticket. Once you've skipped one leg of your flight, the rest of the ticket will be canceled. And it's probably best to avoid booking a ticket like this too often. Airlines really hate it, and it usually goes against their T&Cs, though it's worth noting that it's not illegal. And again, if they do catch you in the act, you could get banned from the airline or perhaps worse. If you're intrigued, there's a whole flight search website called Skiplagged that makes it easier to look for these deals. I'm not telling you to book one, just letting you know that it exists. But getting banned from an airline for skipping a flight is not the only way travelers are getting burned in the US. America may call itself the land of the free, but you could also call it the land of airline quirks. First off, make sure you understand how budget airlines work. Some people will call these low-cost carriers, by the way. Think of airlines like Spirit or Frontier. They can look insanely cheap when you're searching for flights. That is, until you remember how they work. A normal backpack? Extra. Choosing a seat? Extra. Checking a bag? Obviously extra. Water? Extra. A trip to the bathroom? Extra. Okay, not really, but you did pause for half a second. These airlines are zero frills, and when you add everything up, they can cost more than United, Delta, or American. But what if you're only traveling with a really small personal item and you don't care where you sit? Then, sometimes budget airlines can be a steal. When you're comparing flight prices in Google Flights, just think about which extra stuff you might need to pay for and how much it will cost. But the big US airlines have quirks too. This is something a lot of people don't know. Most major US airlines offer free changes and free cancellations cancellation on many domestic fares. Not all of them, and not on budget airlines like Spirit or Frontier, but airlines like Delta, United, American, Southwest, and JetBlue offer different versions of free changes and free cancellations. This is kind of wild because in most of the world, even just changing your name costs money. And if your plans change and you can't take some flights that you booked, usually your only option is to lose the entire value of your ticket. When traveling in the US, if your price drops, or your plans shift by a few hours, or you just want to swap days, you often can. Usually though, this doesn't apply to basic economy tickets, so it's just really important to double check the rules of any ticket that you're looking to book. And one other little quirk: since Southwest Airlines stopped including free checked baggage this year, there are officially no more free checked bags in coach in the US anymore. But there is a useful way that you can still beat that and get free checked bags that we'll go over later in this video. But first, if this video is giving you some value, please make sure to give it a like. And when it comes to booking a great flight deal in the US, both timing and flexibility are super important. But we've got to do some myth busting here. This is not the part of the video where I'm going to tell you Tuesday is the cheapest day to book your flight, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The myth of one day being cheaper than others has survived for too long, but here's how it actually works. Prices for domestic flights in the US change based on demand, not days of the week. So instead of choosing some magical day, use real data. If you take a look at the Google Flights price graph, you can see exactly which dates are cheaper. Sometimes it's a Monday, sometimes it's a Thursday. There's no pattern here, just data. And on top of that, flight prices in the US can change many times per day. So avoid myths and instead just set a free price alert on Google Flights and wait for whatever flights you're looking at to drop in price. This will save you wasted time and headache. But while there's definitely no single cheapest day to book US domestic flights or flights anywhere in the world, there are days where actually flying will be more expensive. Think about when people are actually flying, maybe heading home for the weekend or going somewhere else after the weekend. Sunday evenings and even Monday mornings are often more expensive just because they're peak times to fly. And then on Fridays, prices will often be higher too, especially getting later into the day on business-heavy routes. And holidays in the US are brutal. Thanksgiving, 4th of July, Memorial Day, prices for flying on or around any popular holiday are expensive. So really, the truth of the matter is that flexibility beats everything. Moving your trip forward or back by just a day or two can often save you way more money than any other travel hack will save you. And speaking of travel hacks, there's one that's actually written into US law, and too many travelers I talk to don't even know it exists. Every airline operating in the US is required to let you cancel within 24 hours of booking for a full refund. This is not a credit. It's not an airline voucher. It's money going straight back to your original payment method. So if you see a great deal, but you still need to organize with family or friends or something, you can go ahead and book it and still cancel for free within 24 hours if you need to. And what if the price of those flights drops even more the next morning? Well, all you've got to do is cancel, rebook, and keep the difference. There aren't that many laws protecting passenger rights right now in the US, but this one will reliably work in your favor. Okay. Let's talk some more about price alerts. We talked about Google Flights alerts earlier in the video. Those are great, but they're not the only way to spot a price drop anymore. When it comes to finding unusually cheap domestic fares in the US, Daily Drop Pro and Thrifty Traveler Premium both send out additional alerts in a way that Google Flights alerts don't offer. Neither one of these are magic, it's not guaranteed you're going to find a deal you like, and they're not going to just make $5 flights pop out of thin air. But they will help you become aware of deals that you just might have never thought to look for before. Here's how I personally use both of these services. When I'm flexible, when I want to keep an eye on multiple destinations, or when I'm planning trips a few months out. The idea is really simple. They've got a whole team of flight experts scouring the internet for the best flight deals 24/7. When they find a deal that you could be interested in based on your settings, they just send it to you. Personally, I just think of it as a way of giving myself a few extra chances of finding a great deal when I don't have time to sit down searching for hours on end. And one really cool thing that both of these tools offer is that they'll flag points and miles deals. Google Flights alerts can't do that. This video isn't sponsored. These are just two tools that I've been using that I found useful. You'll find both links down in the description if you want to check them out. But now we've talked a lot about finding deals, let's talk about how to actually book them. Say you get an amazing deal from Daily Drop Pro, Thrifty Traveler Premium, or maybe just Google Flights. If you're paying with a debit card or even the wrong credit card, you're instantly leaving value on the table. Rule number 1 here. Always book directly with the airline wherever possible. On domestic US flights, you usually won't even save money by booking through third-party websites. And if anything goes wrong, well, good luck even getting in touch with anyone on the phone. US-based airlines, on the other hand, are actually really easy to get in contact with. Most of them even let you manage issues by messaging instead of calling. So yes, book direct, but here's the part most people forget. Often, booking with money is the most expensive way to fly. The US is one of the only places in the world where points and miles can get you borderline ridiculous value on domestic flights. Outside of the US, you often pay sky-high taxes and fees when booking with miles. Here in the US, it's $5.60. That's it. I know. It's wild. And because in the US at all times there are dozens of insanely good credit card sign-up bonuses, it's not unusual to earn enough miles for 10 or more domestic flights just from opening one card. Every airline has co-branded cards, banks offer transferable points, and if you're not using them, well, you're almost guaranteed to be overpaying. And remember how we were talking about free check bags? Well, on many of those co-branded airline credit cards, that's a benefit. Even if you only check a bag a few times a year, not having to pay anything for it can mean saving hundreds of dollars. If you're brand new to points and miles, I made a whole video about it, and Daily Drop Pro includes a really solid beginner breakdown as well. But once you get the hang of points and miles, what matters most here is determining when to pay with cash and when to pay with points. Say for example, you need some flights from New York down to Florida. Maybe for the dates you need, they're about $200 on American Airlines, but only 6,000 American Airlines miles plus $5.60 in taxes and fees. Most people value American Airlines miles at somewhere around 1.3 cents each, so that's roughly 6,000 miles being about $78 in value. So would you rather pay $200 or $83? Exactly. And those examples are really everywhere in the US. You just have to start comparing both options. So once you've figured out how to book smarter, with cash, with points, whatever works best, the next big lever is where you fly. This is something a lot of people will overlook completely. Alternate airports are wildly underrated. If you're flying into or out of San Francisco, why not check Oakland and San Jose as well? If it's LA, why not look at flying in or out of Burbank, Long Beach, and Ontario airports? They're often a lot less stressful and can be cheaper than LAX. Flying in or out of DC, don't just check DCA and IAD. Give Baltimore's airport a look and maybe consider Richmond too. And how about Miami? Well, Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach airports are worth taking a look at too. US metro areas often have 2, 3, sometimes even around 5 airports within easy reach. Price differences can sometimes be crazy too. Sometimes just flying in and out of a different nearby airport can save you hundreds of dollars. And if we're thinking about an example like Miami Airport versus West Palm Beach Airport, Miami Airport is huge and it can feel like it takes forever to get anywhere in the airport. At West Palm Beach, you pretty much just walk out of the terminal and you're on your way. Smaller airports may not always have as many impressive facilities as larger airports, but especially when they're cheaper to fly into or out of, they're really worth considering. And remember that one-way versus round-trip conversation we were having? Well, one-ways can be useful for another reason. You can often get even cheaper flights by flying into one airport but out of another. Google Flights makes this really easy to search for. Just type in the name of the city that you're visiting and it'll search for all of the airports in the area. You can add more airports manually too if they're not included in your city name. And here's another hack that for some reason almost nobody I talk to seems to know about. It's basically a way to get a free upgrade and it's helped me avoid more 6 a.m. flights than I can count. Let's say you booked a flight on one of the worst travel dates of the year. Thanksgiving week, Christmas week, whatever. And the only remotely affordable option was the 6 a.m. departure. We've all been there, and if you're anything like me, you're not a fan of arriving at the airport at 4 a.m. Here's the trick. Book that cheap flight, but after you book, keep checking your reservation. Not obsessively, just every few days and definitely the day before you fly. You're looking for any of the following: cancellation, aircraft swap, schedule change, gate and connection changes, any potential delays, and any automatic reassignments that might have happened. Sometimes airlines notify you when these things happen, sometimes they absolutely do not. But if the airline changes anything, literally anything, your itinerary may become unlocked. That means you can often switch to a better route, a better connection time, a better seat, a later departure, even a better aircraft with no change fee. It's the sneakiest free upgrade hack in the US, and once you know it, it will be impossible not to use it. Alrighty, if you found this useful, you'll want to keep going. Luckily, I've got a whole playlist of flight hacks for you. Everything from beating airline fees to hidden booking tricks that'll save you a ton of money. You can check them out right here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.